Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Monday edition of The Yard. It might have been a good idea for me to wait and record the show, because like many of you, I'm very, very frustrated. I would venture to say that I'm probably in a foul mood. And I'll be honest with you, but a lot of people say, well, at least Ole Miss lost. It doesn't help me. Am I happy they lost? Absolutely. But it doesn't change anything about the ball game that I saw at Duty Noble Field on Sunday. So yeah, maybe it's a little bit of relief for the open wound, but I'm more concerned about what happens at Mississippi State. I told a couple of our friends after the ball game, I said, man, if they make it and we don't, it's just going to be almost unbearable. So at the very least, there is some relief of knowing they're not going to make it. But I want to make it. I don't really care what happens up there in relation to what happens here. And he said, well, Steve, I don't understand. You wrote a book about Ole Miss. Yes, I did. But I am more concerned about what happens at Mississippi State than I am up the road. Now, I'm a firm believer that the only thing that compares to good news in Starkville is bad news in Oxford. Because I believe in rivalry. And I'll be honest with you, some of you folks that, think, we should all be just friends and family. We've lived different experiences. I'll just share that with you. Much different experiences. I don't care if they ever win a game, ever, in anything, ever. If they never had anything of joy at all when it came to athletics, they would be fine with me. I don't know how to be any other way. I'm not interested in being any other way. I don't need to be friends with people that have sought the destruction of Mississippi State from the very beginning. But we're not going to spend the whole show talking about rivalry. I've done enough of that. So I want to talk about baseball. And I didn't expect to be here playing on Monday. I really, be honest with you, I hoped we would close it out today in a major way. Because you just never know what's going to happen in these winner-take-all things. You just simply never know. As great as we all felt Saturday night, we feel just as anxious with a dash of negativity on Sunday night. Because in many ways, the same old warts kind of reared their ugly head again, right? Not exactly sure what we're going to do. Bottom third of the order, they didn't come through at all. I will say that I thought was interesting, and I'm going to get to that when we break down the show. Lane Forsythe is the guy that had been 0 for the postseason. Then on Sunday, he leads off 2 innings and gets on base and turns the order over. So you got a runner on, and you got your best 2 hitters in the lineup hitting against the pitcher in the stretch, and we did absolutely nothing with it. And so even in that situation, Lane's battling through a slump. He rockets the ball back up the middle, and the next time he works the count for a walk. We got to make that happen. I mean, this is the postseason. This isn't Tuesday night against Mississippi Valley State. And I had somebody message me about that too and said, Steve, could you give Valley a little bit of a break? I was a Delta Devil. Can you give me a little bit of a break? So this is not Tuesday night against Alcorn State. Fair? It's the postseason. You got to make those things count, man. When you have somebody that maybe is struggling a little bit and they do a good job of getting on base and kind of setting the table for you a little bit, man, you got to pick them up. You got to pick them up, and we didn't do it. We absolutely didn't do it. And so, it's like I look around the league, and Steve, Arkansas lost. Hey, you know what? That's kind of cool. But you know what? That doesn't get Mississippi State any closer to Omaha. That only matters if we get there. We were already thinking, hey, it'd be great to be able to play those guys in Omaha in that big ballpark. That's what's so amazing to me about Arkansas. Is it the offense abandons them and bomb? I could see it. If they went 0-2 in Omaha again, I wouldn't have been the least bit surprised. The fact that they go up there and put up, 21 runs in game 1, and then on Sunday, with their season on the line, they get 4 hits and 2 runs on 2 freshmen. Are you kidding me? Nobody could have foreseen that happening. But here's the thing that happens in baseball. When you're a team that is ultra reliant on the home run, you're going to lose some games. You're going to lose some big games because eventually you're going to run into some great starting pitching. They're going to shut you down. Arkansas, as great as they were, and sometimes we build them up without really looking at the numbers. But, they only swept one series all year, and that was us. And so they were beatable on weekends, and people just couldn't finish them off. You go back and look. There were a couple times this year some teams that were, Arkansas had a chance. Alabama had a chance to take that series. Auburn wins a game against them. Auburn gave them fits. And so they were not this, machine that some people wanted to make them out to be. Yeah, I'm not sitting here trying to sell you baseball website subscriptions. I'm just going to tell you how it is. That's the thing that I felt like Arkansas was beatable in Omaha. But I at least thought they'd get there. It's incredible. And that's the thing. There is a little bit of sympathy in my heart for Arkansas fans. And I don't mean these idiots on Twitter, the ones that just can't seem to, any discussion about Mississippi State. Obviously, somebody makes a comment about Duty Noble Field. We got to have 10,000 Arkansas fans, and it mentions, and they've never attended a game outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas, right? I'm not talking about those fans. I'm not talking about that brand of Arkansas fan. I'm talking about that brand of Arkansas fan that's like most of us. They love college baseball. They cheer for their team. I suspect tonight and this offseason will be longer than any before. Because you got to wonder, man, are we ever going to get there if you're Arkansas? I know, listen, we feel that same way too. This is one of the greatest teams in their history. They were basically wire-to-wire number one after we got into conference play. They win the SEC regular season championship by 2 games. They breeze through the SEC tournament. They get the number 1 national seed, which is proven to be the kiss of death this century. Only since 1999 has the number 1 seed, and that was Miami, won the national championship. Everybody that's been number 1 in the 2000s has not won the national championship. And now Arkansas won't even make it to Omaha. One of the things, too, I think is important to understand, too, this was Arkansas's year. Look at what Kevin Kopps did. That'll never happen again. If it does, it's going to be rare in our lifetime. That guy's, once-in-a-decade type player. Maybe once-in-a-generation type guy. It's crazy how it all happens. But I just want you to just kind of listen to a couple of these things I say about Arkansas too. So that you're going to get Bob Moore back next year. But when you start running this thing down, Jalen Battles is a junior. That's your shortstop. Jacob Nesbitt, third baseman. He's a junior. Braden Webb is a redshirt senior. He's gone. Matt Goodhart, a senior. Casey Opitz, senior. Connor Nolan, junior pitcher. Cullen Smith, transfer from East Tennessee State, redshirt senior. Brady Slavens, junior, coming out of Johnson City Community College. Christian Franklin, junior. He'll be a pretty high draft pick. And so we can go on down the list here. Patrick Wicklander, junior. My point being is that everything was set up for this to be the year for Arkansas. The year. Kevin Kopps, of course, redshirt senior too. So you're going to have some guys get drafted, and they're going to go pretty early, and they're not going to sign much money because they're going to pay them beneath slot for the bonus so they can pay over slot for some high school kid somewhere. But this Arkansas team is going to be absolutely gutted next year. Absolutely gutted. I could see them being in the bottom half of the SEC, probably be a regional team somewhere, but this was the year for them. And every milestone they had along the way, they were checking boxes and checking boxes and checking boxes. And then they get beat by an NC State team that I think many people kind of took for granted. Hey, and good for the Pack, man. Good for the Wolfpack. It shocks college baseball. Really shakes things up for college baseball. And that's the thing, too. That's the thing about this tournament. Ron Polk and I talked about it at the beginning of the year. The best team doesn't always make it to Omaha. The best team doesn't always win a national championship. It's not like football, and in many respects basketball. It's the hottest team that wins it. That's why teams like Fresno State and Coastal Carolina, and in many respects Vanderbilt, their first time, win a national championship. That's why I wish we'd get hot. We have been here the last couple weeks. We'd like to see us get ignited again. There's only a few games left between here and the national championship. We got one big one tomorrow. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But I do have some sympathy for the rank-and-file Razorback fan. I think this is very reminiscent of 1989 for us. 1989, we absolutely should have won a national championship, and we didn't. We didn't even make it to Omaha. That's what this reminds me of. A team that was primed and built and peaking, and then they just run into a pitching performance that is difficult to explain. Let's look, before we get into the body of the show, let's look around the bracket here just to kind of get you caught up. Because I know if you're like me, sometimes when we get beat, I don't really want to look at anything. Maybe I'm a baby that way, and that's okay. That's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. I don't even watch SportsCenter when Mississippi State loses a football game. I don't even watch the college game day shows because I don't even want to see the risk of our score scrolling across the bottom of the screen and reminding me of the misery I'm in. All right, so here we go. Here is the up-to-date bracket. NC State, of course, wins in Fayetteville. Shocker. Stanford absolutely destroys Texas Tech. Texas Tech was probably the controversial top 8 seed. A lot of people felt Stanford should have got in there, possibly Notre Dame. Stanford gets some redemption there. They win and will advance. They will play NC State on Saturday there in Omaha. Arizona, of course, beats Ole Miss. No real surprise there. Arizona's the better team. Ole Miss, same as it's been all year. It's kind of like with us. It's like you can't find a third starter, and unless Doug Nikhazy is on, it's a rough weekend. Vanderbilt advances, so that the left side of the bracket is now complete. Vanderbilt will play Arizona. Stanford will play NC State. That's your game one. That's your day one matchups on Saturday. Now, should we advance, our first game would be on Sunday. And so here's our side of the bracket. Texas actually had a bit of a struggle with South Florida, but they do sweep the Super Regional. They advance. Notre Dame and Mississippi State, of course, will play the rubber game tomorrow. Same for Dallas Baptist and Virginia. Virginia bounces back today. So it'll be 2 games of action tomorrow. That's it, because Tennessee took down LSU in pretty impressive fashion, to be quite honest with you. And so here's the thing that I'll say before we move on and kind of break down our games is, this is what happens in college baseball. There's all these great stories, right? And it's like all these great things that happen, like, oh, how cool would it be? And this team makes a regional and how cute that is. But you know what? It's time for the great story stuff to be over. It's time for the heartwarming moments to be over. And it's time for the real elite teams in college baseball to take center stage. All the other stuff, all the human interest stuff, is secondary to that. And so I'm going to say some things. It might hurt some people's feelings. I don't care. I told you I was in a foul mood. So let me go ahead and explain this as best I can. So here's the deal. Tennessee is a lot better than LSU. They've beaten them now 5 times this year. Paul Maneri, probably smart to announce his retirement before the selection committee made their decision. Probably curried some favor within the room. So they make it. And then they go up to Oregon and they win that regional. And you know what? That's really cute. It's great. Hey, you know what? That's really good. Alex Bregman records a video. Hey, it's time for us to reclaim our spot on top of the heavyweight division. Well, Alex, let me tell you this. It ain't the same game it was when you guys were there. It ain't the same conference. It ain't the same nation. It ain't the same bats. And dare I say it, I'm not going to get myself in trouble here. Let's just say the game has changed. Let's just say people are a little more cognizant of things. So no, there is no reclaiming the heavyweight division. Another great story, right? The Tim Elko thing. You know what? Hey, it's remarkable. It is. The fact that the guy could be as injured as he was, and many people thought that he was done for the year. He comes back. I still don't understand why people pitch to him. I don't understand why you don't walk him and clog up the base paths. That eliminates any possibility of an extra base hit. But you know what? That's over. And that's the thing. Sentimentality and nostalgia will only get you so far. At some point, you got to go play baseball. There was nobody in Tucson, Arizona on Sunday night that gave 2 rips about a Hallmark card or a Lifetime movie They cared about a baseball game. It's like, oh, this is really cute. And listen, you can live your life however you want to. All right? It doesn't make any difference to me. And quite frankly, I don't care what you think about my life either. But those cute little stories, they're cute because of the fact that, there's humans involved in all this. But guys, we're trying to get to the top 8. We're not trying to film some after-school special. This is the difference between the sheep and the goats. Oh, well, I really hope they make it. It's such a great story. No, who cares? Why does it matter? Why don't we want the best teams to make it? Well, I just want the story to continue. And so that's kind of how I see this Notre Dame thing, too. It's it's such a great story. And you know what it is. And it's time for that story to come to an end. Just as we saw with Boneyard, just as we saw with the Ole Miss stuff and overcoming adversity, like they were the only team in the country that had any injuries. Just people are so more acutely aware of it because when they lose, they keep bringing that crap up. We lost some players this year too. Alabama lost their Friday and Saturday night guy. Auburn lost their Friday and Saturday night guy most of the year. It's cute stories, right? It happens in baseball. Injuries are part of the game. It's part of the grind. The teams that can survive and prove that they have depth make it to Omaha. One of them wins. So all this other stuff is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And maybe you think less of me because maybe I'm so cold-hearted or whatever. I just don't care about any of that stuff. Matter of fact, sometimes it makes me want to vomit. It's like I'm supposed to feel sorry for you because you had a couple of injuries. It's a physical game. People get hurt. That's part of it. You think anybody felt bad for us back in 2017 when we had 8 pitchers because we had, 7 Tommy Johns? Was anybody sending you a Hallmark card to your house? Hey, man, sure about your baseball team. Did that happen to you? No, it didn't. Wasn't anybody feeling sorry for us? And you know what we did? We still went to the Super Regionals. We had 3 position players win games in the SEC as pitchers. Jake Mangum, our center fielder, was our Sunday starter for a month. Cole Gordon raises his hand in a team meeting when Andy Cannizaro says, did any of you guys pitch in high school? Can any of you guys pitch? Cole Gordon, a first baseman, says, yeah, coach, I can pitch. And then he does. We play Alabama. We have to put Brant Blaylock on the mound in a ball game that we should have lost, and Brant Blaylock gets us a win against Alabama. What did Tom Hanks say? There's no crying in baseball. Nobody picked up the phone and called you and said, hey, man, I just want you to know I'm thinking about you. I know you guys had a bunch of Tommy John injuries. No, that is not how life works. And so I just don't look at it the same way you guys do, I guess. If I want to feel good about that stuff, I'm going to go outside and let my dogs run in the flowers and that sort of stuff, or I can pick my kids up and take them to the park. I'm trying to win a national championship. That's what's important to me. You want to see me get emotional? You want to see me cry? You want to see me, have my heart warmed? Let's win a national championship. I'm not here for the human interest stuff. I'm just not. I don't care about any of that stuff. You know what? Boneyard is retiring, and we've been saying it for a year. Boneyard is retiring. He had a great career. But I'll be honest with you, there is so much discussion about that. I mean, it is like we have reached such a point where the term legend has become synonymous with being pretty good. You can say, well, Steve, I can't believe you'd say that. Okay, well, Skip Bertman is a legend. Ron Frazier is a legend. You could argue Augie Garrido is a legend. But, it's like it's difficult to appreciate greatness in the moment sometimes. But let me just run it down for you here. It's like you look at this Boneyard thing. Paul was a good coach. He was a good coach. You talk to some LSU people down there, they'll tell you he was just kind of mediocre. It was probably a little bit better than Smoke Laval, though, right? So, Notre Dame, they made some regionals, and they came down here. They lost to us. Went to Omaha one time back in 2002. They were a mainstay in the regional. You got to give them credit. Last couple of years there, didn't reach the regional final. And then he wins a national championship in 2009 with primarily a bunch of guys that Smoke Laval recruited. I mean, and let's just look, the last few years here. 2021 they get beaten at Supers. 2019 beaten at Super. 2018 didn't make it to the Supers. 17 we go down there, they beat us in the Supers, and they go to College World Series and they lose. The year before that, they're in the Supers. I mean, so you make the College World Series a few times. I mean, it's like I just don't share the same esteem for Paul Mainieri that other people do. He was a really good coach. He's not a legend. Not a legend. You can say, well, he was coaching for a long time, and that's true. So if you want to give him an award for longevity, that's cool too. But let's kind of knock the legend talk a little bit, And again, maybe I'm a little bit jaded and bitter because we lost a ball game. And maybe it's because we lost Notre Dame. I don't know. But it's time for all of these stories to end so we can go crown a national champion. Does that make sense? I'm tired of all of this other stuff. It's constantly rammed down our throats. Oh, you got to love this. No, I don't. I don't have to love any of that stuff. I don't have to love any of it. And I'm not going to. Because it doesn't affect me. What affects me is what happens on that diamond when Mississippi State is playing. When we win, I am happy. When we lose, I am not. And so we have talked about being an Omaha team for the third straight year, all year long. Beginning of the year, I talked to you guys, State has a legitimate chance to win the SEC. And we did, and we blew it. And now we have a chance to get to Omaha, and the field is kind of watered down a little bit because of all these upsets. And I've been thinking, for weeks, if we can just get there, who knows what could happen. Maybe our leadership with TA and Rowdy and some other guys, maybe that proves to be the difference. Maybe we go win a bracket. Maybe we make it to the national championship final. But we got to get there. We got to make it to Omaha. And it's down to one game now. We are one game, one win away from getting to Omaha. And then anything can happen. Absolutely anything. And something else too, I'm going to tell you this. Mississippi State is not a cute story. Mississippi State is not a great story. Mississippi State is not going to tug at your heartstrings. That's not who we are. We are a very blue-collar, business-like story about a team that's trying to get back to Omaha for the third time because we are in the middle of trying to win a national championship. We don't need somebody to make a movie about us. We're not cute. We're not heartwarming. We're just a really good baseball team that's trying to get to where we want to go, and that's to go to Omaha and go compete for a national championship. And if I sound a little bit bitter, I'm okay with that too. Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of the show. Roy Samante snuck down there this weekend and had the full of bologna sandwich, gives it the thumbs up. Said he loves the eye tuna burger too, but the full of bologna, he goes, man, it's one of those things that almost puts you in a food coma. It's a lot of food for not a lot of money. That's one of the best things about Bulldog Burger Company is the portions are so generous. You go in there, you plop your money down, and they bring you this tray of food, and it looks like it's enough for two people. It's tremendous. Three great locations to serve you now. Brand new Lake Harbor Drive there in Ridgeland, Gloucester Street in Tupelo, and then the home store. That's a University Drive right here in Star Vegas. Go by, have the spring rolls. And you guys tag me all the time. It's like, hey, Steve, we went and had a pregame meal. I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys supporting them. But also, too, you're making a good decision for yourself. You're getting great food at a great price, great service, supporting a great business that's originated right here in the Golden Triangle. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. MEAT. All right, so let's look at the weekend and kind of get you up to date on where we are in the series. Obviously, you know when we lose, when we win. I'm still fired up about that Paul Mainieri stuff. All right, so let's look at game one, the one that we won in dramatic fashion. There are a couple things that I want to say, too. There has been much made about these errors that Notre Dame committed, but they didn't all come back to bite them. We made an error in that ball game that has essentially cost us 3 runs. Nobody's talking about that, though. It's funny how that happens. It's like, oh, and some of it's our own people. Well, they didn't make those errors. If we don't make that error, we win that game going away. How about that? Did you ever think about that? It's true. I'm going to explain it to you right here on today's show. So let's run through this thing here. And we had such a problem getting them out early in innings. They are a great hitting team. Lee Jarrett's done a great job preparing them. Very first pitch of the game, Spencer Myers singles to right field. I turned to shotgun Spratling from D1 Baseball, and I said, it's already a better start than last week. We gave up a solo home run to Max Pinto, first pitch of the game to Sanford. I joke, but it ended up being a real struggle for us. Colden singles in the right. They got runners at first and second. We get the double play, and then we walk Cavadas, kind of pitch around him, but Putz picks him up. Putz basically just kind of throws the bat at the slider away and just pokes in the center field. It's a 1-0 ball game. And you know what? I actually could live with that, despite the fact that we had a little traffic on the bases. I thought we were okay. So we come right back in the bottom of one and we tie it. And here's the deal. And I want to make sure that we drive this point home because I think this is going to be important for tomorrow. We go as TA and Rowdy goes. That's just a self-fulfilling prophecy in many respects. And I don't know if it's because we got some young guys in the order that are thinking, you know what, if TA and Rowdy can't hit this guy, I can't either. Because it's very rare that we have somebody pick us up. TA and Rowdy always in the middle of it. Always. That was the case as we got even in bottom of one. Rowdy actually has a really good at-bat here. We do ground out, and then TA follows up with a bomb to right center to tie the ball game. Cam James grounds out. Another great at-bat for Cam, too. He's found something. Maybe he's figured some things out for us. And so we need him to be big down the stretch, and then Luke grounds out there. So, again, we go right back to the second. Leadoff hitter hits a dinger. So second straight inning, there's a base hit and a run scores. We get the next three in order, 1, 2, 3, fly out, pop up, and a line out. We get into the bottom of second. We don't get much going here, but I thought Brad Cumbas swung it really well. And, Brad's another guy. He didn't get the benefit of spring or summer baseball or fall baseball, so it's all of a sudden you're starting to see him get some better at-bats because he's kind of rounded into form late. That could be big for us because we really need him to be a contributor for us. But Cumbas gets a 2-out double, and then Kellum Clark can't get him around there. Kellum has not had a big weekend yet. We'll see what happens tomorrow. And having to face all those lefties are a big part of that. But I'm a big Kellum Clark fan. I'm just waiting for him to break out. So, again, we get to the top of third, and what do? We walk Cole. So, for the third consecutive inning, the leadoff runner is on, and he comes around and scores. Cavadas is hit by a pitch, a 1-2 pitch with 1 out. Cuz is then hit by the pitch. So now the bases are loaded, and we're beginning to think they got a chance to break this thing open right here. But Bednar really barrels down. We do give up the single that allows 1 run to score, and then we strike out the side. But again, the leadoff walk, leadoff guy gets on, comes around, and hurts us. We do have a chance to come back here and make some things happen, and probably should have scored more here in the bottom of third. Forsythe leads out with a fly out to right, and then Rowdy doubles. They walk TA intentionally. And if you're Cameron James here, you have to take that personal. And he does. He goes up there and takes one through the right side, runs the guy in, drives the guy in, and they charge the error on the right fielder because he misplayed it out there. The run's going to score anyway. TA is going to go to third more than likely anyway. Cam takes second, and so that's really your error. So, it's like, oh, well, all these errors. Rowdy scores anyway. TA goes first to third on that without any problem. And then what happens next? Hancock hits the ball to third base, and there's an error. But you know what? TA would have scored anyway. And so there's 2 errors in this inning, and everybody's like, oh, but Notre Dame makes all these errors. Guys, both of those runs are going to score either way. Errors or not. It extends the inning, and then Logan Tanner grounds into a double play. But those 2 runs that scored in the bottom of third, no matter how they're charged, they were going to score anyway. So it's a 3-3 ball game. So those 2 errors, let's just go ahead and consider that Mox Nix because there's just nothing there. We really gained no advantage from the 2 errors except for the fact that Cam James is able to take second on that because TA is going first, third on that. That's just how it is. That's baseball. So again, 2 of the 4 errors happened there in the third and really did not affect the inning at all. All right, so we get to the top of 4, and here's what happens again. Zach Praisner, who was having a great super regional for Notre Dame, doubles to right center. So for the fourth straight inning, the leadoff guy gets on. Myers in singles to center, drives in Praisner. It's a 4-3 ball game. We battle back. We get a strikeout, and they give a double, and then we walk Cavadas, and we get the double play from putts. So Boneyard does a good job kind of getting around it there. But again, it's just like you look at this. When you let guys get on, and especially when they have a chance to get on and get in a scoring position with less than 2 outs, more times than not, it's going to hurt you. And it did. Bottom of 4, DeBrule grounds out, Cumba strikes out, and then Clark rips a single to center field, and then Forsythe grounds out. And so that's your inning. Top of 5, this is when Notre Dame extended us. And I want you to let's pay very close attention to this too, because nobody in the national media talks about this. As we discussed before, there's 2 errors there early in the ball game. Did not affect the scoring. Just allowed us to get a runner to second. But so we get Brannigan to ground out to second. That's the first time on the day we've gotten a leadoff hitter out. Coatsy then hits a routine ground ball to Cam. Cam, for some reason, rushes the throw. Would have been 2 outs. And then, boom, the wheels are off. Runner gets on, then Lamanna singles to left, and Praisner hits a 3-run bomb. It is a 7-3 ball game. At the very least, that's one guy less guy on base, but you just never know what's going to happen if we have to face Lamanna with 2 outs and nobody on, and then Bednar is able to throw from the windup rather than the stretch. You just never really know. But the first time we're able to get out of the inning, get the leadoff guy out, we gift them a runner. It should have been 2 quick outs. It wasn't. But nobody talks about that. I'm not trying to pick on Cameron James. I'm a huge Cameron James fan. I think you guys know that. I think he's going to make a big jump next year and be a really good player for us. Going to be one of our leaders. I really believe that. But, we make a mistake here, and it kind of opens the door for them to kind of get some separation in the game. It's a 7-3 ball game. We get the next couple guys out, and, we had a chance to quit right here. Some of our fans did. And, listen, I know that it's hot, but you can get free water. You buy your water and you refill it for free. I get it, but I also don't. We had a bunch of people leave there in the 5th inning when they separated and went up 7-3. I'm so glad that the Bulldogs didn't quit. Some of the Bulldog fans did, but the Bulldogs didn't quit. So Rowdy gets it started, 0-2 count, singles to left field. TA hits the ball pretty well, and it was an error. Probably should have been a double play. He hits it to him pretty good, and he just can't come up with it. And so now all of a sudden, this is an error that opens the door for us to get back in the ball game. Cam James then singles to left, drives in a run. Now it's 7-4. Nothing cheap about the hit. Just went up there and knocked it through the left side into the outfield. Cam then goes to second on a wild pitch. TA goes to third. So now we got 2 minutes scoring position. Hancock reaches on a throw-in error by the shortstop. Basically, the run's going to score here, but we hit a ball back up to the middle, and it's a pretty routine play. Throws it in the dirt. Cavadas can't dig it out. And then we hit into a double play, and then the run scores. And so, those errors in that inning contributed directly to runs for Mississippi State. And granted, we had to put the ball in play, but they made 4 errors on the day. The first 2 of no consequence. These 2 were. There's no getting around that. I mean, if you turn a double play there, you eliminate Rowdy and TA, and all of a sudden it's 2 outs. You're pitching to Cam James. And so, those were significant. But they weren't the difference in the ball game. It never comes down to that. When we convince ourselves of that in hindsight, but it never boils down to that. Notre Dame goes 1-2-3 there in the 6th. Cavadas grounds out into the shift. Bottom of 6. We're within 1. Cumbus pops out, then Kellum Clark walks. Great at bat for him. He fouled off several pitches. Forsythe K's swinging, and then Rowdy hits the tank. And the thing that I remember about this too, and I remember telling Tyler Horker this, we just need somebody to get on because it's a 1-run ball game. We're thinking if anybody in the bottom third can get on and extend the inning and allow Rowdy or TA to come up, with a runner on with 2 outs, a base hit ties the ball game. In this situation, a base hit was a home run, gives State the lead. Great job there. Absolutely great job, Rowdy. Gives him his 10th home run on the year. Tanner Allen's also hit a home run on the weekend. He has 9. If TA hits another one, Mississippi State will have 5 players with double-digit home run totals. 5. If we told you at the beginning of the year, hey, we're going to have 5 guys hit at least 10 home runs apiece, we'd have taken that in a million years. And said, you know what, I'm going to run with this and feel good about life. Top of 7, we have a little problem here, kind of standing prosperity. Again, the leadoff hitter gets on. Branding doubles to left. We get a foul out and a strikeout. We got a chance to get out of it. And then what happens again? Praisner again doubles to left, drives in a run. It's a tie ball game. Again, leadoff hitters, man. You got to get quick outs. And it's easier said than done. But, man, you got to give Notre Dame some credit. They did a great job getting the leadoff guy on, then getting him around to score. And a lot of this is two-out hitting. It's not like, okay, they got a guy on, they bunt him around, they get a ground ball to the right side. Now they get a double, and then they get another double, and they bring him in. But a lot of that, again, it's two-out hitting. I give these guys are tough now. I mean, they really are. I had somebody try to hold my feet to the fire about this whole thing. Well, Notre Dame should have been a top 8 national seed. No, they should not. Just because you have the gift of hindsight now, and you've never seen them play before, and you say, you know what, hey, these guys are really good. You know what, they are really good. They're absolutely a really good team. And they could probably go to Omaha and win some ball games. But here's the deal. They should not have been a top 8 national seed. Their strength of schedule nor their RPI was where it should have been with the rest of the top 8. But also, too, think about the precedent it sets if the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee says, you know what, hey, they canceled all their non-conference games, so let's give them a top 8 national seed. Well, then can Vanderbilt do that? So that's the precedent we want to set is, you know what, hey, I tell you what, just go ahead and cancel all your non-conference games, save all your arms for the weekend, and then we'll reward you by giving you a top 8 national seed. So no, Notre Dame did not deserve a top 8 national seed. Now, are they one of the top 8 teams in the country? Probably so. That doesn't mean they should be a top 8 national seed. They manipulated the season. You can feel about it however you want to, but the fact remains that's exactly what happened. Bottom of 7, this is where I thought, our fans got really upset with the home plate umpire. And I thought it was a good reason for this. Cam James strikes out on a full count on a ball in the other batter's box. I thought it was wide at the game. I got home, watched the broadcast again. It's on the white in the other batter's box, and it is a two-seam fastball. It's not a breaking ball that may have caught the corner. It's a two-seamer he tried to backdoor him with, and it never broke back. It's basically just a fastball in the other batter's box. Catcher does a decent job trying to frame it, and your home plate umpire fell for it, punches him out. Luke Hancock strikes out 2. I didn't have as big a complaint about this one. It was much closer to the plate, but I did think it was inside. But I also think, too, on a full count, especially in a ball game where you need base runners, you got to at least foul that ball off. And then Logan Tanner gets into a full count, and then he fouls the ball off and then hits a tank to give State the lead 9-8. The Brill flies out there, and we're ready to go. We bring in Landon Sims. And listen, I feel the same way about that you guys do. It's like as soon as I see him come into the ball game, I think the game's over. I mean, it's like, okay, it's kind of like daddy's home. All right, everything's going to be good now. We're good to go. Landon comes in, and it really was game over. So we get a strikeout, we get a ground out, and we get Cavadas to strike out. Look, and what a battle that was with he and Cavadas. If I remember correctly, it was an 11-pitch at bat. And it was 2 absolute warriors. It's best on best. And our guy won. And he absolutely fooled him and strikes him out looking. And Cavadas didn't like it. But you know what? That's the thing, too. When you run your mouth in the paper, you better be ready to deliver in the ball game. And it really felt like that was the ball game. It seemed like the 9th inning was basically of no consequence because we had won the ball game. So we get into the 8th. Cumbas singles to left and really rifled that thing in the left. Clark pops up to second, Forsyth grounds out, and then Rowdy Jordan K's. And another lengthy at-bat there. We were able to grind out some at-bats. Top of 9, of course, Landon Sims in the ball game. It goes to 1-2-3. So we win the ball game 9-8. The first thing that I want to say about this is we did not get lucky. Notre Dame did not give us the game. Errors are part of the game. And as I've already explained to you, 2 of those errors did not lead to runs. So can we stop making excuses for our success? We won the ball game. Our guys could have folded and quit. They didn't. Some of our fans did. They didn't quit. They battled back and they won the ball game, put us in the driver's seat in a super regional. That deserves your respect. It's kind of the identity of this team, though, right? They don't quit. Some of the fans may quit. They don't quit.
Nobody builds 5G like Verizon builds 5G, because we're the engineers who built the most reliable network in America. And the more you do with 5G, the more building it right matters. The more your network matters. The more Verizon engineers going the extra mile matters. It's us pushing us. It's Verizon versus Verizon. 5G built right from America's most reliable network. Most reliable based on rankings from RootMetrics second half 2020 U.S. report of 3 mobile networks. Results may vary. Award is not an endorsement.
If you have a family relying on your income, you need life insurance. But finding the best quote shouldn't take a lifetime. That's where Policy Genius comes in. In minutes, Policy Genius could save you 50% or more simply by comparing quotes from America's top insurers. Once you apply, the Policy Genius team handles all the paperwork and red tape. To save on life insurance and get protection for you and your family, head to policygenius.com today.
All right, let's look at game 2, as much as we don't want to. The first thing that I want to say right out of the gate, I thought Christian McLeod actually had pretty good stuff today. I really did. He didn't help himself, but I thought we actually had pretty good stuff today. So we're the visiting team, and that first inning, I thought, man, we are ready to go. Rowdy comes out and nearly hits a jack on the very first pitch. Triples off a center field wall. Very next pitch, TA flies out the center. It's a 1-0 ball game. 2 pitches, 1-0. We're great. Cam James works a great walk there. And then he reads the ball in the dirt and takes off and nearly beats it, but they called him out, and I think he was out. It was a very, very close review. Probably changed the complexion of the inning. You get him there with less than 2 outs. Luke Hancock's at the plate. You got to feel like, you know what, maybe Luke can drive one to the right side. Luke had a pretty good regional. Has had a tough, difficult weekend because we've seen all these left-handers. But Hancock then flies out to center. But it's a 1-0 game. You think, okay, we're off to a good start here. Bottom of 1, we get a K swinging. And then it's an 0-2 count on Cole. And I'm thinking we're fixing to punch this guy out too. We hit him. And then all of a sudden I think we had some adversity. We began to buckle a little bit. We walked the next guy. Now all of a sudden it's first and second. Cavadas gets his first hit of the weekend. Just rips the ball in right field on a 2-0 count. But rather than quit, I thought Christian really knuckled up here and said, you know what, let's go fight. He gets putts on 3 pitches. And then we get this craziness. We got a chance to, okay, we're fixing to get out of this thing, right? We're going to lead the bases loaded. We're a pitch away from getting out of it. And then this is one of those things that's kind of indicative of our night, right? Christian fools the guy that's been just killing us all weekend, praising her. And we get a little nubber that rolls out by the mound. And then this is where changing first base in the middle of the year sometimes, and I'm not being critical of Luke, but, you know, when you've got guys out there, that those situations, you hadn't encountered that very often. And so it's like we miscommunicated. We didn't play it. We should have played it like a bunt, and I think everybody panics there. And then when we don't make the play at first and we're not cognizant of the fact that the ball is still live and a second run scores. It's big. It really is. You say, well, you know what, Steve, it ended up being a 9-1 ball game. That's true. But I think that gave them some juice early on, and we really looked befuddled. Despite that first inning trouble, Christian really kind of battled back and gave us a pretty good start. Top of second, we get back in there. We don't do much. We get a 1-out single from DeBrule, who has been awfully quiet. And, again, that's that lefty-lefty thing. I mean, that's just the reality of life. Cumba strikes out swinging. Clark strikes out swinging. And the last 2 strikes of those at-bats were swinging, and you know we just had trouble picking up that ball low in the zone. Bottom of second, we get a 1-2-3 inning. We get a K. We get a ground out. So we get through the second, it's 2-1. Top of third, we're hitting again. Rowdy singles back up the box. Now we get the leadoff hitter. We're thinking, okay, let's get him around, get this game tied. Let's get even and go to war here. And then what happens is we strike out the side. And all 3 of them swinging. We couldn't pick up that ball low in the zone. He was throwing a changeup. He was throwing that slider. We absolutely could not lay off that pitch. Now, here's the thing that I'll say, and you're going to think I'm being critical of this coaching staff, and I don't mean to be. But you got to make an adjustment. You absolutely have to make an adjustment. Early in the ball game, he was trying to throw that fastball by us, and we were rocking him. Hard contact. So what does he do? He goes back to being a soft tossing lefty. And what do? Even if fastball counts, we just simply can't resist it. You know, the adjustments you make there, especially when you've got a guy that can only throw 88, 89, and then the speed differential between his changeup and the fastball, 7-8 miles per hour, is you sit soft. And if you get a fastball, you adjust. But we struggled to do that. I mean, that's just the reality. We just weren't seeing it well. We had a tough time picking that ball up, and he really, really, really changed the game. I give Terrell a lot of credit. Did a great job. So, bottom of third, we go back out there. Christian gets a 1-2-3 inning. Fly out, and then we strike out Cavada swinging on a beautiful breaking ball. Top of four, we had this crazy play, and I just don't think there was enough to overturn it. But Hancock, or it was Logan Tanner, Hancock grounds out to second, and then Tanner hits that one down the line. It looked like it goes off the guy's glove. And maybe it's the homer in me, but I thought the ball changed direction. Third baseman goes up, tries to make a play on it. They call it foul. It did hit in foul territory, but I did think it went off the glove in fair territory, which would have made it a fair ball. Tanner then pops up. Crowd boos. I wanted to boo with you. Then DeBrule grounds out to shortstop. Been, again, tough weekend for Scotty so far. Bottom of four, and this is when the game got away from us right here. Bottom of four, putt singles. We finally get Prasiner to strike out swinging, and then we walk Brannigan on a full count. We get up in the account. We get the foul ball to start it. 2-2 count. We walk him on 2 pitches. And then Coatsy reaches on an error. We just didn't play it well. They're giving us the bunt there, and we throw to first. Can't make it. The run scores, and then we give up the home run. And dadgum 9-hole gets us again. Prasiner was in a 9-hole last night. And then Lamanna's in the 9-hole tonight. Hits the bomb. It's a 6-1 ball game. I think at that point we all felt it was kind of academic at that point. The game was essentially over. It was just a matter of what the final score was going to be. We get cold. We get out of it. And I really thought we had a little give up in us at this point. Even though it was a bunch of ball game left, I just felt like we had some selfish swings here. We did grind out some at-bats here in the bottom third of the order. Kumba singles up the middle and really hit the ball well. Then Clark lines out at second, and an incredible play there. But it was a great at-bat. It's a 2-0 count, and the next thing you know, it's a full count. We foul the ball off, and then he absolutely tattoos this ball back towards the middle, and the second baseman just makes an unbelievable play, and you just kind of feel like it's not our night. Rowdy then flies out the center to end the inning. We go back out, and we get a 1-2-3 inning again. 1-2-3, ground out, strike out, fly out. At this point, we're just trying to save some arms for Monday, right? So then we get this crazy play, Tanner Allen. He absolutely tattoos this ball. It goes off the pitcher directly to second baseman, who retires him at first. At this point, I was beginning to think, you know what? We're starting to kind of catch on to what he's doing. We're hitting some balls hard because Cam James went right behind him and did basically the same play, except there was no play to be made at first. And then Hancock pops up, Tanner grounds out, the inning is over. But we're putting the ball in play there. We're not striking out then. Bottom of 6, Notre Dame pads the lead here. Prasiner again singles to left field. We bring in Brandon Smith, and then Brannigan hits the bomb to left field. And it just, off the bat, it felt like that was going to stay in the park, but it kept carrying it and carrying and carrying. And it's an 8-1 ball game. And then Smith gets a foul out and a pair of ground balls, and he is the sinker ball guy. So just it's insane to think about how that happens. Top of 7, we go 1-2-3. Notre Dame in the 7th tacks on their final one. Cole triples to right field. To be honest with you, I thought we were a little bit loafing on this play. Ball rattles around a little bit out there, and then I guess we didn't think he was going to go to third. We didn't really work that relay pretty well there. That just can't happen. And, you know, I credit Cole for going for it because, you know what, they got us on the ropes right there. Let's knock us out. Then they get a ground out to the right side, and that's when we had the infield in. Cavadas is then intentionally walked, and then Putz gets a fielder's choice, and the run scores makes it 9-1. Parazner singles again. He's probably the MVP of the regional at this point. Then Brannigan strikes out swinging. We get to the 8th, and we actually mount a little bit of a rally here. We get a leadoff walk from Forsythe, and I talked about that earlier. Forsythe gets a single. We don't do anything with it, and then here we are. He walks, and what happens is by putting that leadoff runner on, now we have the top of the order facing a pitcher in the stretch. And so that should be an advantage for the offense. Well, it wasn't. We basically hit into a double play, but Rowdy gets down the line really well, and we beat it out. Then T.A. walks. Now you get runners at first and second. They do pull Tyrell here and bring in the big reliever, a big right-hander, Rao, and he gets Cam James looking, and the ball was low. But it's too low. It's too close to take on a full count when you're trying to come back. It's actually pretty good at bat. It's 2-0 count, it's 2-2. We work it full, and then we take that ball low. A lot could have happened there. Rowdy Jordan then gets a third on an error by the catcher. Wild pitch. Or maybe they rolled it a pass ball, but either way. And then Hancock grounds out. Again, tough weekend so far for our left-handed hitters, not named Tanner Allen. And Tanner hadn't been great. He's been good, but he hadn't been great. Coatsy then flies out to right. This is Cade Smith. Cade Smith came in and did a great job for us. I'm really high on Cade Smith. And, it's like you always look for some silver lining. There's not much in this ball game, but I thought Cade Smith was one of the lone bright spots. He gets a fly out to right. We get a K on 3 pitches, and then we get Myers flies out to right. So it is basically a 5-pitch inning for Cade Smith. Maybe we're starting tomorrow. Who knows? Top 9. Logan Tanner grounds out, DeBrule walks, and then we grind the double play, and that's a ball game. And very frustrating night for us. And here's the thing that I go back to. People are like, pitching-wise, blah, blah, blah. The 9 doesn't bother me as much as the 1 does. Because we had some opportunities, to get some hits, and I just thought our approach to the plate was really lacking. I thought we really had some bad at-bats at times. Other times we'd grind some things out. But there were several times when guys at the top of our order had a chance to get big hits to either extend innings or drive in runs. And then we just can't see that breaking ball low. And so you can go ahead and expect tomorrow when they pitch, and I suspect it'll be Will Mercer they'll throw. And we're going to see a lot more of that. We're going to see a lot more breaking stuff. We're going to see a lot more change of pace. We're going to see some balls down in the zone because when we hit it, we're going to hit ground balls. And next thing you know, their defense is so good, they're just going to field it and throw over to first. We got to find a way to see that ball up and make some things happen. But again, an abysmal night at the plate. We were able to string a few hits together throughout the ball game. I guess that's not really the right term. We had 5 hits in the game, but we couldn't really string it together. A lot of that stuff was just kind of we get a hit here, and then we don't do anything to follow it up. And listen, a lot of that's got to do with Tyrell too. Aiden Tyrell, I thought, was outstanding. Give him a lot of credit for what he did. He really, 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 really confused us tonight. And so we lose the ball game. And now it's a loser leaves town matchup on Monday. And the thing that I've always said when it comes to these super regionals and the regional finals and that is the team that knows they have to play 2 games to advance, there is a mental edge there. The team that showed up yesterday and says, we're 1 win away from Omaha. Now all of a sudden we got to play a second game. It's difficult to get engaged. Now we have good leadership on this team, and this is where TA and Rowdy have to really step up. And I asked Chris Simonis about it in postgame. Listen, the last 27 outs to get you to Omaha are the most difficult ones of the entire season. And so, what happens from here? We're going to go play a ball game. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm not nervous about it, because I am. I absolutely am very concerned about it because of the showing we had on Sunday. Forget the whole thing on Saturday. And I get so tired of this. It's like errors, injuries, bad pitches are all part of the ball game. That's part of the game of baseball. And some people point out, we made this error here. You know what? When you groove a fastball up and they hit it out of the ballpark, that's an error too. It doesn't go down in the box score as an error, but when you don't execute a pitch properly, that's a problem. That's part of the game of baseball. It goes down as a hit. Sometimes it goes down as a run. but it's just as impactful as a guy that boots the ball around. In fact, it's probably a bigger issue. So when you get great pitching and you get great defense, more times than not you win, and that's what happened to Notre Dame on Sunday. They got great pitching, played great defense behind them, and we took some selfish swings. I mean, that's just me being honest with you. I really thought our approach was very, 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 very poor at the plate, and they took full advantage. But it wasn't all about us. You tip the cap and say, you know what? Sometimes you run into a red-hot pitcher, and that's what we did tonight. They did a great job. So we'll talk about this a little bit later in the show, but we got to figure out what we're going to do pitching-wise on Monday. Today's Top 10 list brought to you by the fine folks at JohnnyPacker.com. Go visit JohnnyPacker.com today to learn more about your own sunglass options. And listen, there are some new options available for you on the website. Brand new blue light glasses. Listen, if you're like me and you sit in front of a computer screen most of the day, you understand about eye strain, you understand about pain. You know, sometimes your eyes get really tired. And so they're doing their best at Johnny Packer to kind of help you with that. So you can get those blue light glasses. And it's one of those things that, just kind of blows my mind a little bit when you look at this stuff. Is that there's so many options to choose from. You get some cool glasses, but also, too, you get those blue light glasses. And so let me tell you how you get there. Go under the shop glasses on the main menu at JohnnyPacker.com. You'll see a secondary menu of blue light glasses. They have non-prescription and then +1 and +2 reading blue light lenses. If you're looking for special powers that fall between those on the page, they can even make custom lenses for you. All you got to do is contact them on the website. Listen, everybody, if you have a specific need, they're going to help you with that. Just go to the contact link, click the email, send it on to them. And a few of the more popular frames back in stock. Those will go online Monday. The Gulfport pair, that's the John Schneider Bo Duke model, right? Those are going to go really fast. If you want those, you better grab them very soon. And be sure to email Brandon and John and let them know if they're not available, because you're going to miss out. No guarantee they're going to be available the next time you get ready to look. And so there are a few things out there that are happening. And again, go to JohnnyPacker.com and use promo code Boneyard to save 10%. As I've shared with you guys before, a portion of your purchase goes directly to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. I'm a firm believer in that campaign, that foundation. There are a lot of people that you're helping improve the quality of their life. John Packer himself is a person that has lived with cystic fibrosis his whole life, and so he's trying to do something positive. It's a company run by Bulldog people. And so check out those lenses. And again, if you don't see availability, send those guys an email. They will take care of you right away. And thank you guys for supporting them. That's JohnnyPacker.com. All right, so I got a request. And listen, I've had so many emails and messages, people asking me to help them find tickets. I can't recall who sent me this, so please forgive me. But it's top 10 boy bands. And I guess you thought I wouldn't touch this, but you're wrong. Now, one of the things I want to give you a full disclaimer here, too. Now, I'm just looking at the 90s pop boy bands, right? Because there have been boy bands throughout life. You got, the Monkees, and in many respects, the Beatles were a boy band before they turned into a rock band. I know that's a sacrilegious comment, according to some. But you've had a lot of boy bands, Jackson 5, people like that. I'm not doing legendary boy bands today. I'm doing the boy band era, really in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, early 2000s. There are also some R&B groups that are considered boy bands by others. I think that's a category unto itself. The Boyz II Men is listed as a boy band according to some people. I completely disagree. I think Boyz II Men is a category all their own. Matter of fact, on Wednesday, we're going to do a Boyz II Men list. How about that? I don't want to lump them in with the boy bands because I think that is somewhat demeaning to Boyz II Men. I think they are a bona fide R&B act, and yes, they harmonize, and yes, it was a group made of boys, or young men, shall we say. I just don't consider them to be a part of this category. So in the true radio pop music boy band era, there was really kind of a big three, right? There was 98 Degrees with Nick Lachey, who eventually became Mr. Jessica Simpson. It's good work if you can get it. And there was NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. There were some other bands, too, that were kind of one-offs. And so I've got a few of those in here, too. So let's go ahead and get into the top 10 list. I also did not limit myself to the super boy bands to just one song. So here are the top 10 songs of the boy band era. Number 10, a song called Flying Without Wings from Westlife. Flying Without Wings. It's a ballad. There are a lot of ballads on here, right? Also some dance tracks. Number 9, from a band outside of Orlando, O-Town. It's a song called All or Nothing, another ballad. Number 8, probably one of the biggest ballads of that era. It's I Swear from All for One. It's certainly a one-hit wonder. Number 7, one of the best ballads from this band. It's NSYNC's God Must Have Spent a Little More Time on You. That's a nice notion, right? It's like we're all created, but you're so special, God probably spent a little more time on you. It's a nice line. It really is. Number 6, 98 Degrees makes their lawn appearance on the list. It's The Hardest Thing I've Ever Had to Do. The Hardest Thing from 98 Degrees. I do like the harmonies on that. I like the beat too. It's a pretty good track there. Number 5, I Want You Back from NSYNC. Not a cover of the Jackson 5 song. It's I Want You Back. It's a dance track too. Number 4, the Backstreet Boys make their first appearance on the list. It's As Long As You Love Me by the Backstreet Boys. I didn't like the Backstreet Boys quite as much as NSYNC, just to be honest with you. But they're talented guys for sure. Number 3 on the list is actually the most downloaded NSYNC song, which is kind of surprising to me. But it's Bye 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 from NSYNC. You can hear it at Dirty Noblefield occasionally too. And Because You Are My Fire, number 2, is I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. I think that's the best Backstreet Boys song. I don't know that we could put together a top 10 list of Backstreet Boys songs and be in like without stretching it. But that is clearly the best one. The best one. I know like some people like The Shape of My Heart. I didn't like it as much. I Want It That Way from the Backstreet Boys is phenomenal. The video's good too. But number 1, the best boy band song of the 90s is Tearing Up My Heart, NSYNC. And it's a great dance track. Love it. Think you guys would dig it too. But that's the top 10 boy band tracks from pop radio in the 90s. And listen, I know there are a lot more NSYNC songs, a lot more Backstreet Boys songs. I don't get deep into the catalog. I'm just going to play the hits for you. But many of you thought, you know what, Steve will never touch this. You're wrong. And listen, I got a chance to visit with so many of you at Dirty Noblefield this weekend, and you told me how much you loved the top 10 list. Thanks so much for your support. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let me know. And again, Wednesday we'll do Boys to Men. Kind of got fired up about that too, because I was on that train long before most people were. Had a friend in the radio business that sent me an advanced copy of, I guess, what is it, Cooley High Harmony? I think that's the name of that first album. But before it was even released. And those guys are phenomenal. So we'll talk about them on a Wednesday. But that's my top 10. If you have ideas, reach out, let me know on social media at Scout Steve R, all forms of social media. Or you can find me on Gene's page. Or you know what, if you just see me out and about, say, hey, Steve, what about this? I'll go ahead and text Roy. Roy can put them on the list. So looking forward to some more top 10s. All right, let's talk a little bit about tomorrow. This segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart. Had a chance to see Stan the Man and Miss Kathy Brown recently, and I had a bunch of people that tagged me in some tweets and posts and said, hey, they went by and got loaded up on some new Bulldog merch there at Campus Bookmart. One of the coolest things is so many people said, you know what, Steve, I never even went to Campus Bookmart until they started advertising on your show, and you made it sound so good. Listen, those folks are like family to me, and I encourage you to go by and support them. They love Mississippi State just as much as we all do. They are committed to the cause. Go by and see them today. And if you can't, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays, and that's BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. And that'll get you free shipping on all orders over $50. Any order less than $50, absolutely incomplete. Again, that's campusbookmart.net. All right, let's talk pitching plans. If I had to call it, I expect it to be Will Mercer for Notre Dame. And then if they have announced it, I'm not aware of it. He has a 4-2 record, 4.53 ERA. He does have the worst ERA of the starters. 10 starts, 17 appearances. has a couple of saves, also has the lowest number of innings pitched for the starters, just 55.2, allows 60 hits, so over a hit per inning, 28 earned runs. He doesn't walk many. He doesn't strike out many. So 44 Ks, and 44 Ks, 17 walks. Does have a propensity to get hit a little bit, though. 273 average, which is among the highest on the team and certainly the highest among the starters. He was pitching earlier in the weekends, and then Terrell kind of came on late. And Terrell has pitched him on Sundays, but they bump him up a day to go against us today. And they'll have Mercer to go. But listen, it's going to be a Johnny Holstaff day for everybody. But Mercer's numbers have actually been pretty good. He had a really good showing in the regional. Let me pull these numbers up and we'll talk about these. And then we'll talk a little bit about Mississippi State. Mercer also a left-hander, 6'1", 195 out of Houston, Texas. A guy that's got a little more velo, too, from what I hear. Another guy that can throw it a little bit here. So let's look at these numbers here, kind of run through some of these things. He was 1-0 back in 19 and 20. Did not do well. Started 4 games, just through 13.2 innings. So not an extremely experienced pitcher. He takes a loss early in the year to Wake Forest. Gets a win over Clemson at Clemson. Beats Virginia 10-5. Beats Duke. Beats Valpo. That's a midweek game. Loses to Louisville on the weekend 7-4. Beats Pitt. Loses to Georgia Tech. Beats Central Michigan in a midweek game. Beats NC State, of course, and they're headed to Omaha. Then he gets absolutely shelled against Boston College. Just goes 4 innings, allowed 7 runs in the ball game. North Carolina, he beats those guys 4-0. And again, not a really long outing, 4.2 innings. Florida State, he loses to them, only goes 5 innings there. Goes an inning of relief against Valpo. Gets just 3 innings in against Virginia Tech. That was in middle relief. And then comes back and pitches a little bit later in the weekend. Also puts up 5 innings there. That was a few days later. And then against UConn, he has a season-high 7 innings pitched. And that was a 26-3 ball game. And he got hit a little bit there, but also, too, that ball game was over. So that's about kind of saving. That's a winner's bracket game. So he's, saving arms for the rest of the weekend. So 4-2, and again, a guy that's been hit a little bit. So hopefully things will work out well for us. I think it's going to be unlike any of the other games. When the main thing we got to do is hit line drives here. We don't have to go hit a bunch of home runs, but we've got to be able to put some things together. That's one of the things that I think about with our offense this year that has been so frustrating is we never really have the big inning. And what I mean by that is, go out there and get 3 or 4 hits and really rock somebody. Those innings have been few and far between. And it's one thing for that to happen in SEC play, which is pretty rare. But, in non-conference play, it hadn't happened a lot for us either. And there's sometimes, we get in big innings because guys can't throw strikes. I don't think it's going to be the case. I think he's going to pitch to contact like the rest of these guys and try to get some swing and miss. And Terrell, the most strikeouts he'd had in the game all year was 6, and he matches that today. And much of that, comes when in important times. So those are high-stress innings, and he does a good job there. So, we can hit Mercer, but we got to go out there and have a good approach. Maybe we go out there and work line drives, work middle of the field. We got to go out there and put the ball in play and not just hit ground balls and beat the ball on the ground all day because they're not going to give us much. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So we got to go out there and attack this guy. And, again, I think we can be too aggressive and go out there and try to hit a bunch of jacks. I think you just got to go up there and just keep the train moving. Now, who does Mississippi State start? I could see any number of possibilities here. We discussed a little bit on Twitter, and some people got their feelings hurt. I wouldn't be opposed to starting Landon Sims. And people are like, oh, my gosh, Steve, we got to have him close the ball game. I would rather him throw the first 3 or 4 innings and kind of keep the game at 0 and give us a chance to get a little bit of a lead than to bring him in a ball game late. And here's the thing, too. Yeah, you can bring him in the 3rd inning. You can bring him in the 4th inning. But the bottom line is we got to get a strike throw early on. I would not start Jackson Fristow. And that is not a criticism of Jackson Fristow. That's just kind of the reality of the situation. Yes, he's a right-handed opener for us, but he really struggled in the regional. And I think, listen, you're probably asking a little too much of him to go out there and pitch against Notre Dame and basically a game that will determine the quality of our season. You lose the game, we're going home. You win the game, we're going to Omaha. I just don't know if I would trust putting a true freshman out there under those circumstances, Jackson Fristow or not. And again, that's not a criticism of him. I just think the moment is too big. Yeah, maybe you throw Cade Smith out there. I don't know. And I think you say, well, Steve, you just said you wouldn't throw a true freshman. I think Cade Smith, the fact that he got out there and got an inning today, maybe you look at it and say he's got a little more confidence. Fristow at times has been a little bit up and down, and I think he's kind of hit the wall. He's never had to throw this many high-stress innings. And so maybe you throw Cade Smith and try to get to the order once. I don't know. Maybe you start Landon Sims. Maybe you start Houston Harding. But the good thing is we've got a lot of options. We have to play this game like there is no tomorrow. Like we're not going to make it to Omaha. We've got to have all hands on deck there, whatever we got to do. And so I like the idea of starting a right-hander, then bringing Harding out of the bullpen. I think Harding is better out of the bullpen. I think he is phenomenal out of the bullpen. And I think you go out there and you get 3 or 4 innings, and all of a sudden you turn the ball over to Harding and say, you know what, can you get me 3 or 4 and get me into the 8th? Then all of a sudden we feel pretty good about our chances. And then maybe you do bring in Landon Sims. But you got to make sure Landon Sims gets a chance to pitch tomorrow, whether it be as a starter, whether it's a long reliever, whether it's a closer, because he is our best pitcher. If the game starts to get away from us, you got to bring him in and slow things down. And people say, well, Steve, he doesn't have that kind of stamina. Guys, Landon Sims was nearly a starter for us. That was the possibility. We discussed that. That was one of those things we looked at. Landon Sims, people forget too, he's had some long outings this year. It hadn't been as simple as, we can only go through 1 inning. You're not saving him for anything. You go as long as he can go. And I've read some of these comments too. And guys, I love you guys to death, but your reasoning skills are not very good. Like, well, Copps lost today. Guys, Kevin Copps went 8 innings and gave up 3 runs. If we can give up 3 runs in 8 innings in that ball game tomorrow, we're going to win the game. That's how I feel about it. If you knew today that we were going to be able to throw Landon Sims and only allow 3 runs over 8 innings, you're going to make that decision every single time. And so, Ole Miss threw Broadway. I don't think it mattered who Ole Miss threw. I think Arizona's better than them. And again, they run out of pitching again, which has been a consistent theme for them. We're not out of pitching. We just got to find somebody who can go out there and give us a quality start. We haven't had a quality start yet this weekend. And I give Notre Dame a lot of credit for that. They clearly have a really good plan, and I do like the idea of not naming a starter until you have to. There's no point giving them all night long to sit there and break down VR film and look at stuff and talk about things and break down tendencies. I mean, instead of giving them 1 or 2 pitchers to consider, let them consider all of them. Go out there and post-game, as Chris Lemonis did, and said everybody's available. I mean, you don't want to tip your cap. You don't want to tip your hand either. So let's look at the Landon Sims stuff too, because I think sometimes we kind of forget. We say, we hadn't thrown twice on a weekend very often. Maybe that's a problem. So maybe you've forgotten this. Landon Sims threw 4 innings against Texas, his first outing of the year. His second outing was against Tulane. He goes 3 2/3 of an inning. So if you knew that he could go out there and get you 4 shutout innings to start the ball game, wouldn't you take that? If you say, okay, well, listen, we're going to throw Cade Smith for 2 innings, maybe get us to the order one time, and then all of a sudden Landon's got, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Landon might even stretch himself to the 8th. You take that. So let's not think he's just got to work in 1 inning stints. That began to happen a little bit later. Kent State an inning, UL 2 innings, Eastern Michigan 1 inning, LSU he goes 2, Arkansas he goes 3 2/3 of an inning, doesn't give up a hit or a run. People forget that stuff. 2 innings against Kentucky, 2 against Auburn, 2 against Ole Miss, comes back 2 days later, goes again. 2 2/3 against Vandy, goes 3 innings against A&M. 2 against South Carolina, 2 against Missouri, 2 against Alabama, comes back 2 days later, goes another inning. Wasn't quite as effective. And then he threw a little bit of a heater there in the SEC tournament. Then he goes 3 against Campbell and 2 against Notre Dame. And so, the concern is okay, you're bringing him back on 3 days rest after he had to throw a couple of innings against Notre Dame. And so, how effective would he be? But, Landon Sims has to be part of our pitching plans on Monday. And it can't be, okay, we're just going to wait. I think you've got to have him somewhat at the ready to hold the game in place. And you say, well, actually, I don't want to panic. Hey, guys, it's time to panic. It's absolutely time to panic. Okay, we have worked all year to get to this point, to get to Omaha. And so you've got a game you got one game to get there, and if that means you got to throw your best guy, listen, here's the thing too. It doesn't matter what Broadway did at Ole Miss. Broadway's not Landon Sims. If you got a Kevin Cobb's performance out of Landon Sims tomorrow, you'd be packing a bag for Omaha. You get a Broadway performance, the season's over anyway. But those things have nothing to do with it. Well, it hadn't really well for other teams. That's got nothing to do with it. Zero to do with it. But yeah, he's got to throw and probably throw pretty early. Hey, but you know what? If you start Houston Harding and he's dealing, you know what? Then you ride him as long as you can. Because here's the thing I know about Houston Harding. You know what? He doesn't have a plus fastball. On a good day, he's probably throwing 91. But you know what? He can drop that changeup on you about 71 miles per hour. So you got sometimes, 17, 18, 19, 20 mile per hour differential. You're going to get a ton of swing and miss. And he also basically throws 3 variations of the change. He can throw the circle change. He can throw a straight change. He's got another one that's kind of a modified straight change that he works with too. And so it's a variety of pitches that he can work with. But here's the thing that I know above all things about Houston Harding is he is going to compete and he wants the baseball. He wants a baseball. Now, there may be some guys, and I don't know. There may be some guys who would say, you know what, even if they're honest with themselves, they say, you know what, maybe let this pass from me. Maybe I'll get you down the road, coach. But Houston Harding wants a baseball. Landon Sims wants a baseball. Brandon Smith wants a baseball. Cade Smith wants a baseball. You got some guys out there that want the baseball. And listen, Preston Johnson's another one. Parker Stinnet's another one. You got some guys that have some dog in them. We got to get out there and just throw strikes. This is a very good offensive team from Notre Dame. They're not going to swing it a whole lot. Listen, and when we do get them, more times than not, it's when we're changing speeds. And so Houston Harding might be the perfect matchup for them. I struggle a little bit, with the whole lefty-righty things. They got a ton of righties, but that's how it's going to be anyway. And sometimes for that change-up away, especially when you can spot that fastball up and you can throw that change-up away, to the right-hander, it's a difficult pitch to hit. And you get a lot of soft contact. And he's been really good for us down the stretch. You look at that start against Missouri, and it's really kind of the anomaly. We remember that. But, that was the thing, too. He didn't just dominate that start, but at the same time, too, he didn't necessarily go out there and beat himself. We had the bad error early on, and things kind of snowballed from there. But that's not really who he is. If you look at the numbers with him, and let's do that real quick before we move on. It's not at all, it's very surprising, really, when you look at it, because, we have spent so much time talking about the other guys. He has kind of quietly had a big-time year for us, and much of it has been in relief. We go to the, let's just run it down here real quick. He goes 3 1/3 against TCU, gives up 1 hit and 1 run. We did have some trouble with walks. The most he had all year was 3. And again, the guy didn't know he was starting. Finds out, Bednar's not going to go, and we throw him to the Wolves, and, did the best he could. We lose the ball game 3-2, but, listen, he went out there and gave us 66 high-quality pitches and did the best he could. Then he goes against Tulane, a couple of innings there, gives up a couple of hits. Southern Miss, he goes 5 innings against them. Outstanding job as a starter. And was striking out guys left and right. 9 Ks in the ball game, which was a regular season high for him. He goes 5 innings against UL Lafayette, gives up 3 hits over 5 innings, strikes out 8. Pitches okay against Samford the first time through. 3 1/3, allows 4 hits, no runs. But, we had a couple of base running snafus that kind of went in our favor. He goes an inning of relief against North Alabama, does not allow a run. Arkansas goes 1.2 innings against them, allows 2 hits and just 1 run there. Kentucky, he goes in, gets a guy out, comes back the next day, doesn't get his guy out. It was a matchup deal. Goes in, it's Auburn, and faces a couple guys. We get the win there. He comes back on Sunday, goes 3 innings, 2 hits, allows 1 run, just does a great job for us there, gets a win. Against Ole Miss, he goes and really made them look kind of silly. Goes 3 1/3 inning, allows a couple runs there, but 5 Ks and gets the W. Vanderbilt, he goes up there and gets touched just a little bit, allows a couple runs. A&M, he goes 5 innings of relief, 4 hits, no runs. South Carolina, it's kind of a simpler deal, right? We bring him in, and it just seems like he's just better out of the pen. South Carolina, we go a couple of innings, allow a couple of hits, get out of it. That's the game that Scott Foxhall got ejected in, and I really thought Hootie grew up a lot in that ball game. Then he earns a start against Mizzou. We only go 2 innings there and give up 6 runs on 6 hits, 2 of them unearned there, and just a 1 strikeout. So everybody's entitled to a bad day every once in a while, and maybe this was it. Maybe this was his bad day, because he bounced back against Alabama, goes 5 2/3 of an inning, allows just 2 hits, no runs, doesn't have a single strikeout, but a bunch of soft contact that day. That ups his record to 6-2. And then he goes against Campbell. And again, Fristow goes out there, and we get behind immediately. And then he comes in and puts out the fire. He goes 5 innings, allows 3 hits, 2 runs. Those runs came late. And then a season-high 10 strikeouts. And so, again, he's really good out of the pen. But I think the guy is such a competitor, I don't think it really matters. And I think, we've tried the opener thing with him. And so maybe you think, okay, let's throw Cade Smith out there maybe for a couple of innings. Because Cade's been pretty efficient too. We all go back and think about the one time that it didn't work out for us. But Cade's a guy that's going to be a big part of our future. I think he really is a factor next year on the weekend. I think he will be a guy in contention. He's had the 1 start this year, but he's he's had a handful of appearances. He goes has a great inning in his debut against Southern. Arkansas State, he goes 2 innings, allows a couple of hits, 5 strikeouts. UAB wasn't so much fun. Goes 1/3 of an inning and gives up 3 runs there, but bounces back. Has a great showing at the Citadel. 3 innings, and then one hit in the stint there. Got beat up a little bit against Missouri, but it was just that kind of day, So that Sunday day, and we're just trying to get out of there. We got him some work. Florida, he comes in the SEC tournament and throws 2 no-hit innings on a day that was awful, right? And then he comes and throws a perfect inning against Notre Dame tonight. So I wouldn't be totally opposed to that, because I think that he has seen some high-stress innings already. And I think that he is a guy that, number one, grew up a Bulldog, but I think that he's a guy that could really contribute. And again, I think this is a guy that maybe gets you through the order one time. So let's say you open with Cade. All right, I don't know this. I'm just speculating like all you guys do. Let's say you open with Cade and he can get you 3, and then Hootie can get you 3 or maybe 4, and then you go to Landon Sims. That sounds like a big day to me. And not to mention, too, it's 3 very different pitchers. So you give them a different look. And that's the thing I've always felt is important in ball games like this where the 2 teams are equal. It's not just as simple as rolling somebody out there and say, go get outs. You got to have a plan, and you got to understand that when you bring a guy in, he's got to be a different look than the guy before him, and that's what this kind of sets up for us. And so maybe this is the direction we go. And again, I'm not opposed to starting Landon Sims. I know some of you guys are, because you panic and think we don't have anybody else back there to close the ball game, but you got to get there. You got to have Landon Sims throw meaningful innings in the game of the year. And so if that means he comes in the 4th, that means he starts, that means he comes in the 7th, whatever. We can't get in a situation, though, where, we get behind in a ball game 5-6-0, and then Landon Sims is just sitting back there in the pen, chilling. And so these are difficult decisions they have to make. If I had to make a call, though, I don't know that you don't start Houston Harding. I think you've got to have a guy out there that, again, has some dog in him, but also, too, gives them a different look. And so we'll see how things progress. We'll find out before we know it. It'll be game time. And the thing that I do know for sure is no matter who we trot out there is going to be a guy that's going to be confident enough to go out there and get us some innings. I don't think we're going to take a chance with anybody that we're not 100% confident in because of how important this ball game is. It's just about stringing it together. It's just like I think about Houston Harding go out there and get us 5 innings. If we get through 5 innings with Houston Harding on the mound and we have the lead, I'm going to say we're going to win the ball game. Because at that point, you just got to bridge it to Landon. And, Landon maybe comes in and can go 3 innings. I don't know. But I feel like if we can get a quality start and we haven't had one yet, then we got a great chance to win this ball game. I really believe we're going to probably have to go out there and score 7 or 8 runs to win a ball game. I really do. I think this is a team that's very offensive. They're going to have their homework done. They're going to be really excited to come out and play because this time yesterday they were thinking, you know what, hey, we got our backs against the wall. Now they probably feel like they got a little juice, got a little momentum. So we'll see how things progress. But I'm excited about the ball game. I wasn't excited when I left Dirty Noble Field. But here's the deal, is we control our own destiny. All we have to go do is win a ball game. And there are a couple teams, or I guess, dare we say it, we're the lone hope for the SEC West now. We're it. You got Tennessee and Vanderbilt have already punched their tickets, but we're the only team in the West still playing baseball. And so that's the toughest league in the country, the SEC West. The SEC overall is, but the SEC West is an absolute meat grinder. I mean, where else do you have, 4 teams in the same division getting in? Or 5, excuse me. Alabama got in 2. We had 5 of our 7 teams in the SEC West make the NCAA tournament. So we're battle-tested. And Notre Dame is too, to a lesser extent. They haven't played the same competition we did. But listen, you can see they play at a high level of baseball. But this is our house. This is our destiny. These are our fans. And if you can't make the game, please make sure your tickets find their way into the hands of other Bulldogs. There are a lot of people that are all over the Facebook group saying, listen, I need tickets. I'll go. I just need a ticket. I've got a way. I've got the day off. I'm coming. I just need a way to get in. So please, please, please. We had a good crowd last Monday. And the crowds all weekend were great. We set an NCAA record, and we have the number 2. That's the thing. When we have a super regional, we have a chance to go to Omaha, we're going to have a bunch of people come out. Baseball wasn't the only game in town. We had football camps over the weekend. This segment of the show brought to you by Portico. Listen, Brooks Bryan's a great friend of mine. He'll be a great friend of yours. Many of you have thought about, you know what, Steve, it'd be great to live in Starkville. Let me just tell you, it is great to live in Starkville. It is wonderful to live in Starkville. We got all these great restaurants around here. We got all these great people around here. We got the Bulldogs around here. So, on a Tuesday night when you get off work and say, what are we going to do tonight? Let's watch Netflix. No, we're going to go to watch the men play. We're going to go watch the girls play. We're going to go watch baseball. We're going to watch softball. You don't have to worry about finding something to go do or be entertained with when you live in Starkville because there's always something going on. And we got a movie theater down here too, but listen, you moved to Starkville for the Bulldogs. So many of you have said, you know what, Steve, I'm going to do that someday. Today's the day. Let's make a move. All right, it's as simple as that. Portico is right off of 12 when you turn off of 82. So if you're coming off 82, you turn to 12 like going to campus. The first right will take you to Portico. The first right is Garrett Road, and it takes you across Old West Point Road. I guess Pat Station Road is what the sign says. But, you're a mile from campus. What could be better than that? 4-bedroom, 4-bath, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, a house that will fit every size family or every need you have, whether it be your primary residence, an investment property, or perhaps, just your weekend retreat when you come up here to watch the Bulldogs. Makes perfect sense. Listen, there's only a couple of houses left in the first phase. Going to be moving some dirt here soon for the second phase. Finally got permits approved for all that good stuff. But listen, don't take my word for it. Call Brooks. Brooks is invested in the Mississippi State community. He is invested in Starkville. They're going to do a great job for you. Give Brooks a call today, 601-416-8075. Again, that's 601-416-8075. Make Portico your next move. All right, so we had the Big Dog Camp on Friday, and then we had another camp on Saturday. And so we had most of the primary targets here, and it's one of those things that it all kind of runs together after a while. But we had a lot of stuff going on 2 weekends in a row. So we had a lot of baseball stuff. We had a lot of, I guess Big Dog Camp was actually a week ago. But we had another big group on Friday, and some new offers have gone out. None for 2022 that I'm aware of. But we did offer a big offensive lineman for 2024 out of Houston. And he is also Chris Jones' second cousin. So you got to feel good about that, right? And that's something we'll deal with later on. But this is a guy that had a really good camp for us and a big-time offensive lineman. We'll see how things progress with him, but he certainly has the size and he has the pedigree, right? So the cool thing about this is, too, is like when you look at this offensive line recruiting, and we talked a little bit about this last week, and I've been kind of preparing you guys for this. I don't know when these things happen, But I feel really good about where State stands with Bryson Hurst, offensive lineman from Gaucher. He named Mississippi State as his leader after Big Dog Camp, which is a week ago. And all week long we've talked about it. Now I understand that basically he is very, very close to his mother, as we all are, but he wants to involve her in the decision-making process. I was told he was really, really close to committing. And then said, you know what? I guess his dad was with him and said, hey, listen, before you do anything, you need to sit down and talk to your mom. You need to get her up here, let her meet the coaches. So that's going to happen sooner rather than later. And then, of course, there is Cam East. It's interesting how the whole Cam East thing works. It's like Arkansas led, and even though it was kind of a narrow lead, I mean, we all kind of knew that they were the team to beat. Their offensive line coach goes to LSU, and then Cam goes down there and camps. And so the same coach that offered him at Arkansas and was recruiting him directly has not offered him at LSU. And one of the things that I'm told is because LSU already has a couple of offensive tackle prospects committed, and they've got a couple more they're looking at to play on the interior, and he's kind of the odd man out. That doesn't mean they can't come back on him late. But it's interesting, that the guy that was like, hey, come be a Razorback, now that he's a Tiger, now I was like, well, you're not good enough to play here. They don't say that, but that's kind of the inference there. I think Cam East is going to end up being a Bulldog sooner rather than later. And so when you begin to break this thing down and think about how talented this group could be, Cam East is a guy that I think out of St. Augustine High School there in New Orleans is going to be a really good SEC offensive lineman. Then you look at Bryson Hurst. He is just kind of cut from a different cloth. He's a guy that's going to play on the interior. I think he's a guard all the way. But he is a guy that is pretty close to college ready. I mean, a lot of these guys show up and are out of shape. They got to get in the weight room. Bryson Hurst just has a core strength and a commitment to the weight room, but it's just kind of unsurpassed in Mississippi when it comes to offensive linemen. He's not a big guy out there just getting in the way. He's a very athletic guy that's moving people around. I think State's in a great position to get both of those. And then I think you can be extra careful with that last spot because we are going to take 5 offensive linemen unless something completely unforeseen happens. We have kind of operated under the assumption for a while now there's going to be 2 wide receivers in this class because State's gone so heavy the last couple of years, but you had some guys leave. And so what I'm told now is it's going to be 3, possibly 4. Before it was, hey, it's going to be 2. Now it's 3, possibly 4, because you've had some changes, of course, on the roster. And I think everybody understands you kind of got to replenish those guys. And this is an offense that requires you to have a lot of depth at wide receiver. So we're working towards that. And so there will be some new offers to go out at wide receiver here in the coming weeks. I think once they have a chance to evaluate the camp tape and kind of see where everybody went, because the kind of the understanding that I get from this staff is like, if you don't want to come to camp, then that says something about your level of interest in us. It's like, oh, I love you guys, I love you, coach, but I don't want to come work out with you and get to know you a little bit better. And so I kind of got that vibe from them, kind of like John Hevesy used to be with offensive linemen. Even if they didn't work out, they wanted them to come chill and hang. But there's some other guys out there that are kind of competing with other guys. You need to come out there and work. Now, I'll be honest with you, I could see some adjustments being made to the class over the course of the next couple of months. I think there will be some guys that probably need to come back and camp again when they're healthy. There were a couple of guys. I know one guy that, Tyler Woodard's a guy that, had a hamstring injury. I don't think we saw the best of him. And so I would like to see him come back healthy and then have a chance to compete. And, there's a couple other guys, too, that didn't work out because they had some ailments. And so you need to get them out there and get them going and kind of figure out where they fit. And so, but again, there is always this continual evaluation process. It's not as simple as, hey, I saw this kid's junior film, let's take him. He has to kind of maintain where he is at the very least. You'd like to see him take some leaps and bounds and make some gains as a player. But if he doesn't, you at least need a guy to at least maintain that same level with you from an interest level standpoint. I think those are big things to look at. Is you don't want a guy that's going to coast. You don't want a guy that's going to get senioritis. You want a guy that's working to get better. You want to see him kind of transform his body a little bit, get bigger and stronger, and kind of round in the SEC shape. And so those are things that happen. You continue to watch grades. You continue to watch physical development. You continue to watch their senior film. And listen, there have been guys in the past that have had bad senior film. Mississippi State's moved on from them. So that's part of the gig too. So, again, be mindful. We didn't get a spring evaluation period, so guys are kind of getting caught up from all that stuff. And as I've told you guys before, there are going to be a lot of busts in that 2021 class around the country because of the lack of evaluation time. Going to be a lot of guys that show up on campus that aren't quite as big as people hoped or expected. And there are going to be a lot of guys out there that aren't as fast as expected. And eventually that shows up. Well, now it's different. Now you can get guys together and you work them out. And so there'll be some other camps. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about baseball, and I'm really excited about going to Omaha. So Mississippi State, I need you to take me with you by knocking this thing out tomorrow. And I want to say one more thing before I go. I cannot begin to thank you guys so much for all of you that have bought Blooms of Oleander, and your reviews have been fabulous. And listen, there are a lot of people that won't read the book that'll have a lot to say about it, but I put a lot of effort into that book. And so I was notified on Sunday that Amazon is sold out of hardbacks and had one paperback left. And so they've reordered. No worries. You can go buy it today. They'll still get it to you. But also, too, it is now available on Kindle and Nook. So if you are an e-reader type person, you can find it there. Also went down today, kind of a flash signing at Bookmark Cafe downtown. She is completely sold out of hardbacks and I guess has about 30 paperbacks left. They're all signed. But they've sold a couple hundred books in a week. And so I want to thank you guys for your support. And it's incredible to think about this. You know, this was kind of my little pet project, and I didn't really have a lot of expectations, but the book's doing exceptionally well. And from what I understand, next Sunday when they release the next Mississippi bestsellers list, Blooms of Oleander is going to be on there. And that means an awful lot to me because it's kind of my baby. And so if you're looking for that, I encourage you to go find it. You can find it. You can order it through your own bookstore. You can find it at Lemuria Books now. You can find it at Bookmark Cafe. And you can have your local bookstore order it for you. Or if you don't want to go to that trouble, you can go to Amazon or Books A Million or BarnesandNoble.com. And you can order directly from them. They won't be signed, but you can get the books, and you can catch up with me at some other point. So really excited about it, and ready to see that list, to be honest with you. Those are the things, too. It's like the more books that I write, the more book signings that I do, and the more authors that I write, I have a greater appreciation for what that list means. And I work really hard to be on that list. I really do. You'd love for everything to be number one. It's just doesn't always work that way with the John Grishams of the world out there, but I put a lot of time and effort into these books, and I hope they mean something to you. This one is very personal to me, and so if you enjoy that sort of stuff, please let me know. And again, your messages have been great. When people say, "Hey, I read the book and I loved it," I always ask them, "What was your favorite poems?" Just because I like that kind of feedback. And some people would say, "Come to me, say, Steve, I don't like poetry, but I'll buy it for my wife." Well, that's cool too, but I think you'll enjoy it. I think it's all very relatable. But again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And you can find those books, as I mentioned, those websites. I will actually do a book signing this Thursday night at Turn Row in Greenwood. Have more details for you on that on Wednesday. So if you're in the Mississippi Delta, I will be there Thursday evening at Turn Row Books. And don't think they'll have the new one there, but if you're looking for Father's Day gifts, you can find them there. If you can't make it to Turn Row and you want copies of Flim Flam, Stark Villains, or Alpha Dogs, go to alphadogsthebook.com. We sold some of those today down at Bookmark Cafe. So people come in to get the new book and bought some of those too. And so many of you need to go ahead and kind of supplement your reading catalog and find those books. Again, that's Alpha Dogs, the book. That's Alpha, ALPHA, thebook.com. And, of course, if you're looking for Stark Villains gear, you can find it at starkvillains.com. All right, let's get out of here. The next time we talk, hopefully we're talking about a trip to Omaha. That's what I want. I know that's what you want. We may not always agree on how to get there, right? We may not agree on who should start. We may not agree on who should play what position. We don't get to fill out the lineup card. But I know this. Even when we disagree, we all have the same concern in mind, and that's Mississippi State being successful. And so my hope is we're all booking a trip to Omaha. I want to leave on Friday. I'll be honest with you. I'm hungering for the road. And if we don't get a chance to make that trip, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I've been looking forward to that trip now for 2 years. We didn't get to go last year. But I really want to go to Omaha, and many of you guys do as well. Mississippi State deserves to go, and it's all within our reach. We just got to go take care of a very good Notre Dame team on Monday. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we'll make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
You didn't.
Yep.
I thought you learned your lesson.
I guess not.
Dad, the vultures are back.
Okay, kids, you know the drill. Windows up.
Gone too far looking for a good deal on gas? Try Price Match, only from BP Me Rewards at participating BP and Amoco stations. Learn more at bp.com/bestprice.